He get a call for a domestic. I go to back him up. We got there roughly the same time. We go into the house or the apartment complex. There is a person's belongings in the hallway. You can hear people arguing and yelling. He goes in. I'm behind him. I stand in a doorway, and while he's talking to the people, and he talks, separates them, and talks to the female there, and that's when I went into. Well, he was back there, and I stayed out here with the guy and his mother. And so Han comes back out from in the back where he was talking to the female, and as he's talking to all of them, that's when I stepped in and I asked to read the PFA. And Han's response was, and this is where he was indignant and said, "Ron, I'm not enforcing the PFA today." Only it was a lot more harsh, and it was embarrassing. I was embarrassed for myself. I was embarrassed for a department. And so once the call was cleared, well, interestingly, in the PFA, so everybody knows, it says the defendant, being the male, is not allowed on the premises. So I personally would have arrested him, but it wasn't my call. I'm the backup officer. I can express my concerns, but didn't really have the opportunity. I get back to the hall. I'm typing up my own reports from a prior incident. And quite frankly, I took that time to calm down. And when when I did go upstairs, I knocked on the door. The door was open. I knocked on the door. He said, "Yeah, what's up?" So I reiterated with him that I would not put up with Tommy's antics or his bulliness or his mouth, basically. And I started to tell him what happened. And that's when the chief explodes and says that I have to learn to get along with him. And I'm like, no, I don't. Meaning, I can work with him professionally, but I don't have to be his friend. And when I said, no, I don't, that's when Ed lunges out of his chair at me, because I'm standing at the corner of his desk, and that's when he starts screaming at me and spitting on me and poking his finger in my face. And as that continued, then he suddenly hit me in the chest with his hands like this, and I responded. The man hit me. Their attorney's like, "Well, did it hurt you?" Well, that's not the point. The point is, he was out of control. He's spitting at me. He's screaming at me. He's shaking his finger in my face. And now he hits me. So what's next? Do I have to worry about him shooting me? Under those circumstances, yeah. I sure as hell wasn't turning my back on him. And so the scuffle ensued, and when I had him pushed up against the bookcase, I felt his back muscles relax, and that's when I backed away. Because he was back into control of whatever. He wasn't screaming at me. but then he demanded my weapon and my badge and all that. So I gave him that, and then he said that I was on a suspended pending termination. And that was that day, in a nutshell. But all that being said, none of it started there. It started 16 years ago with his continued harassment. I mean, I have the documents where he would wait till a weekend, knowing that I had a weekend off, and then give me a letter of counseling or something. Now, he'd never hand it to me. He would put it in my bin. I'd be there all day, and he'd be there all day, but he'd wait till I was out of the office, and then he'd put it there and leave. And I can show you on the calendar every time he did that, because it was on a Friday before I had a Thursday, or a Friday before I was having a weekend off, or just right before a holiday. That is his way of harassing you. And this just never stopped, because he's never been held accountable. And he should have been held accountable a long time ago. The double standards just eat away at you. I even said to the former mayor the one time, I said, he's broken me. I didn't think that was possible. He's broken my will to be a police officer. And I really didn't think that was possible. I mean, you could look here and see that I'm very patriotic. I've always served my country or my community wherever I've been. And for this to happen when it didn't have to happen is just so wrong, it's not funny. The testimony that all of us provided a year ago, why hasn't council read that if they have or haven't? They could have got the paperwork the same way I did. All they had to do was ask for it. But you have a chief that tries to browbeat people. I won't be browbeat. I'm more of a man than that. And he only attacks people that he can intimidate. And that is a historical, you know, it's always been like that. I think I said, Jason at one time, we had a mental issue, or a mental guy down at the hospital. Now, it took about 6 or 7 of us to restrain the guy. After he was restrained, the guy spit on Ed. So Ed hit him. Now, the guy can't defend himself. He sure as hell shouldn't have been spitting. That's not the point. You don't hit somebody when they're restrained. You know, because Joe, at that time, Joe Brown, had already gotten hit by this guy. I took a knee in the shoulder so he didn't hit Joe a second time. Now we have him subdued. He spits on the chief, and the chief hits him. Where's the honor in that? Where's the man in you? You don't do that. Once you have somebody restrained, you're done. Unless they're trying to kick you and everything else, you're done. Now, this guy couldn't have hit anyone anymore because he was in 4-way restraints. His legs were restrained, his arms were restrained, which is why he spit on the chief. And the chief hits him. From a lot of the blogs I've read in the newspaper, you know, they were saying I should hold on to I shouldn't have that kind of temper and all this. This goes back 15, 16 years. So it wasn't a one-time incident with the chief. Now, this is the first time the chief's ever went off on me like this. The first time he's ever pushed me. This is the first time he's ever spit on me. It's the first time he's ever screamed at me. I don't know what he's going to do. It's has become so unbearable, it's not funny. So when he freaks out on me, I didn't lose my temper. I was trying to survive. And people can say, well, you could have stopped at any time. Not as long as he's coming at me, I can't. There's just, I mean, I have volumes of instances of what he has done. He violates his own policies. He got into a chase the one time when he had a new officer in the car. A month after we put a pursuit policy in, he violates his own pursuit policy. And this guy ended up crashing and breaking an ankle. And I mean, quite frankly, that guy was a fool for not suing the chief at the department. He violates the policies that he sets on a continuous basis. So, how much can a human being take? I mean, I'm embarrassed about all this. I was embarrassed when he was screaming at me. That's why I shut the door, so that nobody else could see it. They could hear it, but there's no reason for them people to be able to see it also. What kind of supervisor does that? I mean, I have never worked for anybody in my entire life that acts like he does. And that's militarily and civilian-wise jobs. I don't understand where he thinks he has a right to scream at people. And I don't get it. I don't understand where he's coming from. I mean, I don't understand his rationale. You know, and people say, well, he doesn't have any kind of a management style. Well, yeah, he does. It's management of non-management. It's a horrendous work environment. I mean, it's sad when you have half the force or more that want to leave, and they have little kids, and they say they can't handle it anymore. I'm too old to leave, to pack my bags. I can't go to another department. Now I definitely can't go to another department because I got nothing to fall back on. My fallback on was the military. So since I had to retire from that because of my hearing, now I got nothing. So when they fire me, I got nothing. We got no benefits. And this was all because of the actions of Ed Fabriziani. And he ought to be ashamed of himself, as well as the mayor. Yes, I have a lot of animosity against him. Not to the point where I would start a fight. You know, it was said that I grabbed him by the throat and then hit him. Well, if I'd have grabbed him by the throat, there'd have been a different outcome. Now, maybe then if that outcome came out, then okay, yeah, Ron couldn't control his temper. But I've always tried to do my best to restrain my feelings. Just like when I go out on a call, I don't judge anybody. I'm there because we got called. No other reason. But in an instance like this PFA, what do? If the person violated it, they get arrested. And it turns out the guy's got warrants. That's the other thing I do. Common practice. I check everybody for warrants. Han didn't. So a week later, one of the other officers in our department ended up arresting this guy or filing charges against him. So now they had to do Han's job all over. And it just doesn't stop.